to the bonus level.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Bonus Level Podcast. This is level 32, and I am Jack, and joining me this week is just Josh.
Hello.
No Luch. Luch had some family things come up, and he is going to be MIA this week, and we're going to try our best to carry the torch forward, and it just won't be the same without him. So, Sending him our best wishes, and he will return with us next week, hopefully. But this week, we have a very special duo cast of all things, All things alien. We thought we'd chat about aliens and if they exist or not, right, Josh?
Yeah.
That's the
By
general
the end
principle?
of it, we should be able to prove one way or another.
I think so.
That's what I'm hoping.
And probably not, to be honest with you. Let's just be real. It's probably not going to happen.
We'll be at least 95% sure.
No, I want to talk about why I even had this idea. Obviously, the debate of whether aliens exist or not is a huge, there's cults and clubs and theories and all kinds of things surrounding this, right?
Yeah.
So-called evidence and et cetera, et cetera. I think ultimately it just depends on what you believe at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter about anything else, just what you believe, based on what you believe, and then also what you choose to believe in. However, I had this weird idea that, it actually was probably from a negative point of view, but that we as humans, from an other perspective, not of our own, probably would be viewed very similarly to the way that we view termites.
Yes.
Or cockroaches, or, a disease or a virus or, some sort of plague, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, why, how can you make that comparison? But think about this. The Earth, in general, we all know humans are just rapidly depleting its resources, right?
Yeah.
Whether from clean air, fresh water, deforestation, all of this, the natural resources, oil, hole in the ozone, whatever it might be, all of these things, we're rapidly depleting all of these resources. And it's very, very likened to, like I said, a termite
or a parasite or whatever, killing its host.
Right. So termites come into your house or a structure of wood and they eat the wood from the inside, and then the structure collapses and they move on. Yeah. And you have to exterminate them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know exactly where this came from now. I'm bringing my entire train of thought around. I was forgetting who I was talking with, but whoever's if they're listening to this, they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you forgot that you were talking to me about it," and I apologize. But new Terminator movie coming out later this year. Number 6 in the franchise, super awesome. James Cameron coming back, Arnold, and now I'm not going to remember her name. Linda Hamilton.
Yeah,
Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yes. So, returning 2 cast members and director, super awesome. And Skynet, right? Skynet's a big thing as far as time travel and, AI taking over the world. We've talked about Skynet before. But the idea is that, they give Skynet control and Skynet decides that humans are their own worst enemy. So the best thing to do is to get rid of them all so that machines can calculate and run the planet, efficiently. And that kind of led me into a thought process of, if aliens ever came to Earth and saw us without any context clues, none whatsoever, of like previous history, that we're the alpha species, whatever it might be, if they just came to Earth and only observed for a few minutes, they would see a manifestation of a termite colony trying to destroy its home world.
Yeah.
That's literally what it would look like. And how awful that would be, because we always think of, okay, well, we see termites and they're just doing what they're meant to do, but we exterminate them because they are encroaching on our space.
Oh yeah, fuck them. We
What?
wiped them down.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But you know for a fact that if aliens came down and felt that way about us, we would be like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
You can't stop us from destroying this planet. You let us do it. You let us alone. I don't care if you're smarter than us or not. We're going to destroy this planet one way or the other. And then we'd fight them. And then, Independence Day speeches, alien punches, that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to think
Yeah.
that the people, like, if aliens came down and with a loudspeaker were like, you guys are destroying this planet, it's going to collapse on itself within 20 years because of your stupidity. So we're going to wipe you out. I don't think at that point people were like, hey, we want to keep fucking up the planet and stuff. I think that if aliens came down and they just started attacking and we didn't know why, then of course that we would fight for it. But if they, I think that we would try to negotiate if they were like, hey, this planet's going to collapse on itself within 20 years if you don't do something. Like, because I feel like that there are people that are saying that stuff now. It's just you have a lot of people that are saying that kind of information, but maybe aren't the most reputable sources, or
Sure.
either it's become a very polarizing issue where it's typically you have a lot of people that are more on the liberal side of things that are more for protecting against climate change and saving the environment than you do on the right side of things, which I think is really silly, because I believe that both people care about the environment. So it's like, why isn't everyone on the same page if they just think that? I mean, there must have been something along the lines, probably before our generation came into play, where that was used as kind of like political fire, to get people to swing one way rather than the other. And so like you had one side that was like, oh, so anytime this environmental stuff, then I just know it's bullshit, because I know you're just trying to wean people over to your side going, oh, poor planet, we need to go help that. When in reality, I mean, if you just look around and see what we're doing, like take a step back and look at what we're doing to this planet, it's like, how long could this go on? Like,
Right.
I mean, I look at the town that I'm from. We moved here when I was 3 years old. So we've lived in this same town, and I've moved around some, but now I'm back here for 31 years. This town looks so drastically different in the past 30 years that I've lived here. I mean, just super highways and malls, and we have 3 Walmarts now. And I mean, just like it's grown up so much. And that's just, I mean, it's hard to even just explain the amount. I mean, my little town has it's like 900,000 people in it now, that it's insane how much it's growing into. So we have to realize that we have some kind of effect on this planet. To what extent, I don't know. It's hard to believe everything that you see and that you hear, but I think it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to kind of deduct that we do have an effect on it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it's obvious looking at it. I mean, obviously, you see news and you see articles, and anything can be blown out of proportion. But
yeah,
the things that you can see in pictures it's hard to dispute with, like, actual physical evidence that you can go look at. Like, you can go to, for instance, Venice in Italy, and all the pictures and the postcards and the travel magazines all painted to be this gorgeous place, but like in reality, it's like really dirty. The waterways and riverways are mostly filled with trash and debris. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and the water, and whenever it rises too far, it actually ends up a foot deep throughout some of the parts of the city where you're like in a restaurant and you put on galoshes to like sit, and it's still open. You're just in a foot of water. It's just really weird as far as the perspective goes. And I realize that we're talking about this kind of thing and we're kind of like straying off the topic of aliens, but it all has stemmed from the idea of, are we really alone in the universe, and what kind of impression are we leaving on the universe if we're not, right? So like,
yeah,
if you want to live and kind of be under the pretense that yes, we are alone and it doesn't really matter because your lifetime is finite, right? Like we have
Yeah.
the average human has a lifespan of 60 to 80 years, whatever it might be, and within that time frame, who cares what happens after because you're not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that we continue to have children, we continue to raise up new generations that then have to deal with the problems of the previous.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a lot bigger. The problems are a lot bigger than just like, oh, well, this is what we have to deal with today. Oh, if you go to downtown Los Angeles in the middle of the summer, there's a air quality warning because of all the smog and it not being able to properly, evaporate into the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, China has a super bad issue with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and
So,
and that's what I find to be, silly or frustrating a lot of times is when we are coming out with new technology that is cleaner, that, it always feels like it's a money choice to keep going after the old school energy sources,
mhm.
you know, and instead of making these kind of switches. But,
Well, yeah.
you know,
Absolutely. Everything is based on money, or else, instead of getting electricity installed, we'd be getting high tech solar panels installed, and that would be what's powering our houses instead of,
yeah. And I don't know. I mean,
factories.
I don't know a lot about solar power kind of stuff. To me, I mean, it sounds incredibly cool. I mean, we have a giant ball of fire up in the sky. And if we can get power from it, that seems like a pretty cool idea, because it doesn't seem like that's running out anytime soon. Or if you're trying to suck something out of something that's literally what is the Earth, like a million times smaller than the
Yeah, something like that.
than the sun or something. So you're going with something a million times smaller and trying to suck all the juice out of that one. It's like, no, we got a giant ball of fire up in the sky that we can get energy from. Oh, yeah, that's cool. But like, so with when it comes to aliens, in your personal opinion, do you think that they've already come and gone? Do you think that they regularly make drop-ins on us, or do you think that we're going to eventually meet up with them someday in the future, or do you think that they just don't exist out of A, B, C, or D?
You remember Men in Black 1, right? They
Yeah.
were the alien that it's like the giant cockroach that crawls in the guy's
Yeah.
skin and he walks around like the guy, right?
You met him?
I'm pretty sure I meet some of those people every day on a
Yeah.
daily basis. Driving around, I see those people. You know how he drove that truck and like had no clue, like no motor
Yeah.
functions?
Well,
Yeah, I'm
that or
pretty sure
seeing him in a restaurant,
yeah,
like
I'm pretty sure
eating.
I've seen those people, yeah, on a daily basis. So I think that the real answer is they're already here. They live here because sometimes I can't fathom the level of stupidity that I see, from the general public. But the
Yeah.
real answer, my real answer is, I if aliens were real, if there was beings from another planet, it would be very, very. I think it would be very unlikely that we would ever know. And I think one of the biggest things would be that we are so technologically behind in
Hmm.
what I feel is humanly capable, because we have, just looking at the past 10 years and the tech advances that we've made in that time, I feel like any being that's able to tap into their full brain power would have made these leaps and bounds long ago, and they would be so far ahead of us that they'd come and see our primitive species and see us, killing each other and killing the
Yeah.
planet, that they would be like, yeah, no, I'm out of here. Like there's no use in trying to, like, you know,
Well, I
cultivate a
mean,
relationship here.
yeah, yeah. So, but what about the fact of, like, if we're going back to like the Big Bang and where the universe started spreading apart, and the time, kind of started with Earth and everything. I mean, it's possible to think that, that same timeline happened on um in another galaxy or something
Well,
like
that's what
that,
I'm
the
saying. I
same
guess I
exact
guess it,
way,
it
that maybe
does.
they're the same speed as us and that's why they haven't. Or with the fact of, I mean, like, I think they said the last recorded ice age for Earth was like 12,000 years ago. And that's when most all of the population of the planet, was killed off and everything, that we lost a lot of civilizations. And who knows what, I mean, especially like if you think of this day and age, almost all of our information is digital. So
Mhm.
something happens and we lose power to computers and stuff like that. How much information gets lost when we're trying to rebuild society, And so think of if something like that happened in the past, and maybe they're not using computers, but they have books or stone carvings or something, and all that stuff gets wiped out in floods and snow and those things, and now they're going back in time with the information that they have, and that same kind of thing could be happening on in these other galaxies where maybe they do start getting advanced where they can start doing space travel, and then boom, they get reset a little bit because of an asteroid hitting or a freeze coming through or a lightning storm or whatever it could be, super volcano. And we
Right.
got tons of things that could happen to us that could set us back. I mean, because we're progressing pretty good now, but a super volcano hits and what is it, Yosemite or whatever, that wipes out the whole United States, and
Super
we could be.
volcano, mega shark. Just the hydro hurricane. All the major disasters.
I mean,
Uh,
anything that could set us back. I mean, just setting us back. Think of if we got set back 100 years, where we would be right now.
yeah.
I mean,
I
think of
don't know.
what 1919 looked like.
Right.
And that's prehistoric if you think of it. And that's just getting set back 100 years. So you could easily see where one little trip up could get you in some trouble.
Well, I think again though it depends on what you believe. If do you believe in the universe being formed by a random act of science and happenstance, or do you believe that there's higher powers that be that made things happen? And if that's the case, if there is a higher power that made the human race and gave us the technology to advance and to grow forward, who's to say that that same higher power didn't do the same thing for another species or a million
Yeah.
species all over the galaxy? So I think that it just depends on where you believe life came from in the first place. And then, from there, you can kind of start to make your own arguments or your own case for things. But it's hard for me to believe that if you believe in evolution or the Big Bang, for instance, that you could believe that alien life existed just based on the fact of, like, if you look at Earth as a singular sphere or
Mhm.
whatever, and you look at all the life that's on it, whether from human life to animal life to plant life, and just the millions and millions of species of all of those things, animals and
Yeah.
plants and people, and just every single human out of the billions of people in the world are different. Everybody's different. And if you can say that all of that originated from one single cell, after a cataclysmic event, then I- you know, I, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that would be something that you could get behind. You know what do you understand what I'm saying? Like, where I'm coming from there? Like, if
I
you could, if you believe that all of that happened from a single cell, could you then say, oh, well, it also could have created another race and another race or a different race in a different place? And, the same kind of random, one in a bazillion chance for the circumstances to be right created
I
another single celled organism that it evolved from there.
I do, in the fact, the reason that I could believe something like that is, I mean, if you think about, um, like how many different galaxies that there are, and how, like, Earth, the reason that it works so well is because our distance from the sun is optimal for basically the kind of
It's
life
not
that
just
the sun.
it's not just optimal. It's not just optimal. It is exactly perfect.
Yeah. So
Exactly perfect. Any closer is too hot, any farther away is too cold.
Well,
It's
exactly.
exactly perfect.
So, but if you look at other galaxies have a series of planets and stuff in them, some being different distances from, their star. Some are super close and that's why they're really hot. Some are farther away and that's why they're cold. But there are, I mean, I don't know how many there are that are Earth-like planets around, where they happen to fall within that same distance, around their sun
Well,
or,
there
or
aren't.
their
That's why
star.
we've never found any life.
Well,
You
no,
know?
I mean, I don't think that we've been able to accurately record that just because of the absolute magnitude of all the galaxies or anything. I think there's so much of space that we just don't know because of its insane size. I mean, the fact that they're able to calculate anything in space, it hurts my head. That they talk about, like, when you're looking at a star that's a certain, like, most of the stars that we're looking at, they're already dead. Like, they've,
Yeah.
we're just seeing the light still traveling to us from hundreds of millions of light years away. Like, the absolute distance that these things are away from us, I think it's really hard to say that nothing would be able to come from it. Because I mean, if you look at like here in our Earth, where we do have the perfect living conditions for millions of different creatures, small as like little cells and big as freaking whales and shit, that you know, leave something out on a counter long enough or in the fridge or whatever, and you'll just start seeing stuff grow from it. Like, everything starts having stuff like grow on it or whatever. It's like, I didn't put anything there. Like, there was nothing there before, and then over time, it's either a
Yeah,
little
it's because
particle
of
from
the
something or
yeah,
whatever.
the bacteria and little microscopic organisms that live, in the world around us. But that's what I'm saying, though, is that we're saying that all of that came from one single cell during a random happenstance event in the exact perfect conditions, and all of that for humankind, and then for the entire universe, planet wise here, not planet wise, but life wise here on Earth, to
Hmm.
happen from that, and how infinitely small the chances are for that to happen, to then say, oh well, that could have happened in another galaxy as well.
Well,
you know
that's. I mean, my whole thought process is on it is, like I said, just the overall magnitude of what we're looking at with the entire universe and the galaxy. That when you start throwing things out there, that it's really, you're needing certain. It's kind of like when you're making uh, a dish, a recipe, or whatever. You have to have a couple different things that click into place, and then given enough time, something can happen. And so, like with me, what I think about with the Earth is, yeah, when you have that optimal temperature position, you have the you got to have the air certain way or whatever for whatever life's on there to be able to breathe. And then you have to have it not too hot and not too cold. So you find how many planets are able to fall within that distance from a star. I would think that the odds of something like that wouldn't be so astronomical that it could not ever happen. Now, going even deeper to having a cell on that planet or something, I don't know. I would think that that would make it smaller, but I would
right,
think
but
that it'd be very hard to believe
we're
that they would only
talking
be
about
one.
life at all, like it created life.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a time before life existed, and an event creating life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't
right?
know.
So,
I'm no scientist on that kind of stuff. So, like,
no
trying to
rocket scientist.
debate like how on earth a cell is created from nothing
Nothing.
is the biggest question. That if someone could figure that stuff out, that we'd be pretty good to go.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
would solve the religion versus science question right there, right? I mean, that's ultimately the question when it comes to aliens too. I feel like that if you're going to debate that there is aliens in the universe, in other galaxies or whatever, that there's just no way that you could be on the side of evolution. It just doesn't make sense to me, because I just don't see how you could. I mean, I think you're downplaying the actual mathematical chance for something like that to happen, and on top of that, it hasn't actually ever been proven that it can happen. We've never created life out of nothing, like nothing
yeah.
itself. You know what I mean? There's always something there that's creating life, that's already alive. I mean, so yeah, the mathematical probability of something like that happening is so astronomical to then say, oh, well, it could happen not only one other time, but possibly multiple other times to create multiple other species or, in what we're calling alien
Mm-hmm.
to the human race. And I think that that's where I'm like coming in to spearhead the argument, as in like, if you choose to believe in aliens, you have to believe that all life came from somewhere, as in like it was created, it was made, whatever. It doesn't have to be a deity figure in
Mm-hmm.
that sense, but something, some sort of ancient ones that are all knowing, powerful creatures or whatever it might be. Whatever you choose to believe. I just don't see how you could go down the evolution path and then say, oh
I
well.
think just in my mind, the numbers that I have, like if you said that the odds of what happened on Earth being like 1 in 10 trillion chances or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, that when they talk about the size of the universe is so much
Well,
more than
for
even the
for as
biggest
all we
number you could
know, it's
possibly think
infinite.
of.
Yeah, for all we
Yeah.
know, it's infinite.
So like that's why it's hard for me when I'm dealing with an infinite number to go like, oh, there's no possibility of that happening, because we're dealing with a literal infinite number that it's like, if given enough time, anything can happen. Given
Yeah.
enough time, like, because we're talking about like the beginning of, like, when was the Big Bang first said to have
Oh,
happened?
millions of
Let's
years.
see, Big
It's
Bang
millions of years ago.
date.
4.7 million years ago.
Let's see, 13.8 billion years ago.
Mhm.
Um,
Even more, billion years. Okay.
yeah, so we're at like nearly 14 billion years ago. So you're
Which is
talking about,
so many years.
yeah, it's so many that like that's why, like, so when we have a discussion like this, it's hard for me to ever talk in any like, well, it's got to be that, because it's so freaking massive that like no matter how little the odds were that you told me of chances of life happening on Earth, no matter what number you used, the size of the universe is so much bigger than that, that it's like, well, all it had to do is happen twice,
Well, but
or
then, but then in that
whatever.
case, in all practicality, with the odds of how big the universe is, then the odds of there being life, and then that life finding other life, are so infinitely small. Then that we might as well say, well, aliens don't exist because we're never going to run into them. The universe is just too big for that to
In
happen.
some ways, but in the way that we're sitting at a point in history where it's like just before our generate, like just before we were born is when we landed on the moon, right?
Yeah.
So like that was the kind of technology that we had. We're barely able, like if you were to look at a little model of the
Well,
Earth and watch like
we
this little
land.
model, go up there, it's so incredibly tiny that it's like, and then hopefully we're being able to progress and be able to get farther and farther, and we're learning new things. I mean, just looking at what we've done with cars over the past 100 years, to think, okay, well, what's going to happen to spaceships over the next 100 years, or
Yeah.
maybe next 1,000 years, or let's look at what is Earth going to look like 1 million years from now, if we haven't killed ourselves or depleted the planet.
Oh, we
What
will have.
could Earth look like 1 million years from now? Like,
Well, first of all, going back to the fact that you said we landed on the moon, because did we land on the moon? No, but seriously, I mean, I see what you're saying. I can't get on board with the line of thinking of it being chance, right? So
mhm.
if aliens do exist, it has to be again for a purpose, or otherwise I'm on team. What's the point of all this kind of thing? Uh, and I just can't see that. I don't. There's it's just it doesn't make sense in my head to think that way. You
Mhm.
know, even if I were to be wrong, I would still feel good about thinking, this is for a purpose. Like I'm doing something for a reason. You know what I mean? Rather than, oh, well, nothing matters, and you live and you die. That's it. And
Yeah.
that's a sad, depressing thought. But at the same time, not whether neither here nor there, however you get there, however you decide to take a stance on, other life, I think really the bigger question is it's almost like the Matrix question. If aliens existed, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if let's for let's hypothetically, we're just going to go with they exist, and they do exist. Do you want to know when you're interacting with somebody from another species or from another place? Do you want to know, or do you just want it to be like an ignorance is bliss kind of?
I would definitely like to know because it, like, the Matrix is I feel like a little bit different. Like, that's very much about, wolves being pulled over your eyes, where
Yeah.
things aren't what they seem. But if it's like, if there's aliens here that are pretending to be humans, and it's like, and all of a sudden you bumped into one and you saw like a big, green head pop out of a hat, and you'd be like, whoa, okay, so let's sit down and talk, because what is this? Like, is that like, am I living in a simulation? Is like, is anyone else
No.
aliens? Like, what's it? I would have so many questions about what's going. How long have you guys been here? Like, is the cave drawings, the pyramids? Did you guys do that kind of shit? Like, what's
Mhm.
going on with it? Like, all these kind of things that it would be. Yeah, I would have to know. Like,
You
I
would want
think
to
it,
know.
yeah, I think it very different question. I feel like, for me personally, than the Matrix
Do you
one.
think? Do you think the general public would have the same opinion
I
as
think
you?
so. I think that
You think
people,
in
like,
you
if
think in
aliens were here, they
general
would want to know.
people would want to know?
Yeah,
I don't think people could handle that sort of thing.
I think it would depend on why they were here. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if they were here,
What if
and
they weren't able to communicate? We couldn't speak their language.
now then we'd beat the shit out of them for trying to like hide and breed with us. Be like, what are you doing?
Well,
Who are you?
that's kind of my thing, though, right? Like, isn't that? Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to make this into like a race thing because whatever, but like, isn't that kind of the same sort of concept of like, you know, we go to a different place and there's people that don't look like us, and that makes us scared, so we kill them,
Yeah,
or we enslave them, or whatever. And it's the same thing. Like, we find out aliens are living among us. Maybe they're peaceful, but they don't know how to communicate. And all of a sudden, we're just like, oh god, they're not like us. They're weird. They look different. They act different. So,
yeah. I
right?
I think it'd be very much one of those, like, you see a snake where it's, you keep your distance, but you're kind of watching it, and you're like, okay, is this thing gonna bite me? Is it not gonna bite me? Like, what's going on? And it's like, does this thing have a human form, or did we find out that all squirrels are actually aliens? And we're like, okay, like, if it's something like that, it's like, well, I guess I could live with the fact of squirrels are alien. I mean, because they don't go get in little spaceships, or do they? Do they go get in their little spaceships and fly up into the
maybe
sky
they
at night when we're
maybe
not
they
paying
do.
attention?
Maybe
Like,
they do.
and if that's the case, then it's like, all right, you little motherfucker, like, what are you doing? Are you just coming down here to collect nuts? Do we need to start collecting nuts? Is this going to help us out in the future? Like, all these kind of questions would kind of go into play. That, um, I don't know. I think, like, at this time in, like, 2019, that we've seen enough movies with aliens that people have their preconceived notions of them already.
Yeah,
Like,
of
I
course.
already do. Like, I already have a whole dialogue planned out, that when an alien comes and I meet it for the first time, that it's, hey, I'm John, and we go through this whole thing together, and you know that's that's like how everything's gonna go, because I've seen so many movies. Like, if it looks like a xenomorph, then it's like, fucking run and try killing this thing.
They're bad.
But if
Yeah,
it,
they're bad.
looks like SpongeBob or something, then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you're okay. Like, I don't know how close I'll let you get to me, kind of thing, until we actually start communicating. Like, there's been so many movies about, like ET, freaking adorable, dress it up in a little outfit, and give it some Reese's Pieces, and we're good to go. Or is it something that's going to come down here like Independence Day with tentacles and start trying to do nasty things to us?
Yeah.
That I think we just have to, yeah, I think everyone would kind of be basing things on that. You'd have your people that sit in chairs like, motherfucking alien come to my planet, I'm gonna fucking blast him in the head. And then you have other people that are like, I don't care if the alien tries killing everybody, I'm gonna go give it a hug because we need to accept
Yeah.
everybody. And then you're gonna have your people in between that it's gonna be a little bit of everything. I don't know. If alien came down and started talking to you, how would you feel? Well,
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because I guess, like I said, it depends on, it depends on how they were acting. But at the end of the day, like, maybe they come in and they're like peaceful, or they act peaceful just to see like how humans respond to something different or someone different. And
mm-hmm.
then we respond negatively or violently. And then they're like, okay, well, that you failed. And then they just zap the planet like
Yeah.
Star Wars, and it's just like all over and all over again.
I mean, I would have to think without fully knowing your enemy, you would want to approach it as kindly as possible. Because if you're like, oh, you're a little tiny thing the size of a squirrel, fuck you, I'm going to kick you if I see you or shoot you with a shotgun. And we have no idea if they do fly up to space at the middle of the night and they have a big Death Star that they can blow us up with. So you want to treat them nicely until you get to learn, what you're dealing with. I think that'd be
What if you're treating them nicely, and then all of a sudden you realize that they have evil intentions?
well, then you have to start handling things in that kind of way. I mean, what
But
you're
they're
not gonna
aliens. I
you're not
mean,
gonna
you're not.
look
They're
back
not.
at it and be like, well, damn, I was such an idiot for being nice to this thing. I should have been hostile towards it at the very beginning. No, I'm still gonna go, well, at least I know that I was nice to it, and this thing is just a dick. Like, it wasn't like that I was a dick to it, so it was like, well, fuck you. We came down here to help your planet. You guys just started spitting on me, so we're gonna just fuck your planet up.
Yeah.
That's, at least in my personal opinion, I would like to approach things nice.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be, not racist, right? I mean, that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole point, is to love one another and to love each other despite our differences. But I think ultimately, my thoughts on the matter is that if there were aliens here,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't know about it, and maybe they already are, and maybe we're already treating them, in some type of way. Maybe they don't look how we expect them to look,
Yeah.
but that kind of thing. I mean, if you're religious, you're told that angels exist all over the place, and you never know when one of them, like somebody that you run into or that you talk to, is
Yeah.
an angel. Like, that's what you're told. And it's like that same kind of thing. Like, if we lived under the pretense of like every single person that we met could either be some sort of extraterrestrial
Mm-hmm.
that's just gauging our planet, or looking to see, what's going on here, would we act any different?
Yeah, I'd have to think that we would. I the main thing is no one likes feeling duped or feeling lied to. But I think that would be the biggest thing, is if we found out that there was something, someone or something living among us, that we would feel cheated and lied to, and that would immediately put us off. Um,
Yeah.
that I think that's the biggest thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, so in my mind, because I gave you like the ABCD of where I felt like um, alien life was, that
Yeah.
it, the two that I like thinking of the most, and what makes enough reasonable sense to me, is either like the B, that aliens came at one point in like either propelled human civilization, or were there for some of the start of it, or whatever it may be. Like, I like thinking of, the cave paintings with bigger people that, are all over the world. Like,
Yeah.
buildings and structures that are like, how the hell did that get built? Like, what are they doing with that? Like, anything with that, I think, is super, super cool. It's very fun. For me, just because it happened so long ago, and we're putting together basically hieroglyphs and cave drawings
Hmm.
to figure out what they're actually talking about, that anything that they're like, oh, this looks like aliens, it's like, oh, yep, probably so, just because it's that confirmation bias with it that I like. Other than that, just, I mean, like, I'm not 100% sold on that, and I don't think that I ever will be, unless we get some real good definitive proof on things. um,
Right.
I just find it something fun to kind of theorize about. The other thing would be that we just like I said, that there could be something out there that maybe it's either progressed at the same level as us, or maybe it's a little bit behind us, or maybe it's a little bit ahead of us, but it's not enough to actually come here. um I would think the whole aliens come to our planet and abduct people, here and there, and do experiments on them, that anything with aliens now seems kind of hoopla to me, and kind of crazy people. That I'm not on board with aliens. Just like UFO sightings, all of them I think are complete bullshit.
Yeah.
That
You think?
like I don't find any truth in that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
if someone were to tell me, hey, I'm from the future, and yeah, we ran into aliens 10,000 years in the future, um that I could say that I could lean that way. Or like,
Uh,
oh my god,
uh,
dude, the whole well, I'm talking about meeting a person from 10,000 years in the future, so you got to expand your mind a little bit just on
yeah, I know.
that.
You also said
Yeah.
you just believe him if he said he was from the future, and I would
Well,
just be
no,
like,
like if
yeah,
I
no, time travel doesn't
knew, I'm just, you know what I'm saying though. But
exist.
no, like what there was a I saw some article that they were talking about with octopus, octopuses, octopi, whatever they are, that there was something that was talking about that they could have came from asteroids. That basically asteroids do, there's some that have ice on them. It's like frozen water, so they could be
hmm
carrying life in some weird kind of form. And just because they're so crazy compared to so much other stuff that we have on this planet, that it's like they can change their color, they could change their shape, they could fit through anything, they're super intelligent, like all these different types of things. That it's like, to me, I like thinking, like when I saw that, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Like I got super excited about it for a little while. I was like,
They're
yeah, we could,
aliens.
like octopuses are just aliens. They came over on asteroids hit the earth, some went in the ocean, they melted, they, here now they live among us, and we just don't know because we can't communicate with them. Like, to me, it made perfect sense for a little while. And I think that I can't remember what it was. It was something that they went over I think the DNA of an octopus is actually really similar to humans. And
Okay.
so but it was to the point that it was like, if octopus were aliens from another galaxy or planet or something like that, that you would think that there would be a bigger difference between DNA strands. Like we would find something and go, okay, like, because I think that we've run DNA tests on probably most creatures that we can on Earth to this point. I would assume so. If not, then you scientists need to go out there and do this, because otherwise we could have aliens around us. Um,
Yeah.
that I think would be one of the telling signs, unless there's something else that we just don't know about. But yeah, because if they would have gone to, octopi and gone like, oh my god, like humans have XY chromosomes and these have like ZZY chromosomes. Like,
Right.
what the hell is
Right.
this?
Right.
We've never seen this before. I would have been so sold on that shit. Like
Oh
alien
my God,
octopi,
they're aliens.
like, and what
Yeah.
that means, because they're, I mean, though they are intelligent, it's not intelligent life. We can't communicate with them. They obviously don't have little octopi spaceships or anything. So it's,
Or
uh,
do they?
or do they? They have little
Dun, 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 dun.
submarines or whatever. But so that to me, it's a very different if I found out that an octopus was an alien. I mean, that would be super cool to me, but it's not going to mean as much as if literally we had a little green man land in a spaceship and walk out and
Shapeshifter. Yeah. Mink, mink, mink. Um, no, I mean, I agree. It's just hard. I don't know. I guess because I'm just skeptical of the whole thing in general.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you like how you felt about, these people that say that they were abducted and they had this. Do you think it's just like a really bad, trip on acid or something?
No, I mean,
'Cause, I mean,
I know
some of
what you're
these
saying
people,
with
they,
that. I
they
wouldn't say that it was like all from like acid or anything. There's got to be. I don't know. Rogan kind of talks about it some, because he had that show Rogan Questions Everything, where he went and talked with a lot of people, and he's like, they all
yeah,
kind of very similar kind of situations. That a lot of these people, he goes, though I don't think that they were meaning to lie to me. He goes, I think that they were lying to themselves, and they believed it,
Believed it.
and then
Yeah.
they're regurgitating this information and they believe it wholeheartedly. Like they could pass a
Right.
polygraph test that they had been abducted, but in reality they were lying to themselves. And whether that's, some kind of, I mean, some people deal with sleep paralysis. I've never had
Yeah.
that situation, but there's
Right.
some people out there that do. So let's say that there's someone out there that has some kind of crazy sleep paralysis thing that also has hallucinations at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
only I mean, it is weird that this stuff tends to happen in certain areas. Like, I don't have any UFO sightings and people getting abducted around where I live. There's always these people that are way out in the freaking boonies, that's like,
Oh yeah.
you know, what's
But
going
I think they
on with you?
drank some bad cow milk, to be
Right?
honest with you.
Who knows what the hell is going on? But yeah, that kind of thing to me just seems like just complete crap.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, my belief is either they came long before us and either helped us build pyramids and shit like that, or we may run into them one day. We don't have the capabilities of doing it yet, and maybe we're not.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't kill ourselves before we get to that point. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in the camp of, if they did exist and they're here already, or if they're coming already, they're going to be very disappointed.
Yeah,
And I'm also in the same camp of, they're created from somewhere. We're created from somewhere. I have my own thoughts on that, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. But I just don't think we could have this conversation and think that everything is just by accident. And that's just me. That's my thoughts on it. Unfortunately, I think the real question is, and it should be, if we had a chance to save our planet from some form of, if aliens or another life form was going to come help us save our planet from depleting its resources and teach us the ways of clean energy and, reusable everything, recyclable everything, what kind of state would the planet be in for them showing up to be like, oh, okay, we're here to help. Wait a minute. What is happening?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think that if more people, I mean, it goes way past aliens, of course, right? Like if more people just lived less for themselves and more for other people, we would have so much less of everything negative in the world, right? We'd have so
yeah,
much less war, murder, crime, famine, disease, like all of this stuff that can be helped by simple human, kindness, compassion,
exactly.
just doing the right thing in most situations. And it's that, if you knew that the person that you were talking to was judging the planet like a report card and it
Yeah,
was based on your behavior, would you act any differently towards the people around you?
I would definitely think so. I think that,
But again, you would think so because you're the optimist of
yeah,
us. You're the one that has faith in people, that has faith in the human race, that thinks that given the chance they would do the right thing.
yeah. I feel like so much of what we do to the planet and to people as a whole comes from the whole, like, the stuff is so big and it's so around us and it's so with everybody else that it's hard to sometimes understand and see things on a very personal level. Like,
Yeah,
I think if anyone had to, like, physically walk their trash to, the
a
ocean
landfill.
and go, no, like, so like
Oh,
where the pollution is in the ocean, like where there's all that trash and stuff, and had to literally walk their stuff and drop it there and see the mess that they were making and
yeah,
go like, shit, like we're doing that. Like, I don't think that they really wrap their head around it, because it's just like, no, I'm just tossing this wrapper out my window of my car because I don't want trash in my car. It was just a little piece of gum. Like, this, it's tiny.
yeah,
It's just a little piece. Like, what's the big deal?
right.
Why do you care? Because they're not seeing the big picture of, you're one of nearly 8 billion people on this planet. Now look at 8 billion people tossing out something the size of a grain of rice, and you got something, you know, pretty big. It's like, it's those kind of numbers. Like, we can't even imagine what,
Yeah,
you know, how many, like, the amount of people on this earth, it's so hard to imagine that number. Like the kind of stuff that we're able to really imagine are, numbers that we're able to see. Like you can imagine 100,000 people because you could imagine a football stadium at Super Bowl. That's 100,000
Yeah.
people.
Right.
Much more, but even like that, when you look around, people look like ants there on TV. Like it's just little people like ants, and that's only 100,000. Okay, multiply that by 10, and now you're at 1,000,000. Okay, so that's 10 stadiums stacked on top of each other. That's just 1,000,000. That's how many people live in my county. Like,
Yeah.
so we're talking about numbers that are so big and so many people and so many different things that are happening. I mean, even this stuff with, we're depleting the ocean of fish by a ridiculous rate because we're just going, oh, the ocean's gigantic. There's so many fish in here. We're grabbing them out that we don't think about, the fact like, well, I go to the store and it's like, oh man, shrimp looks good. I'm going to throw some shrimp on the barbie, and I'll buy some not thinking like I'm perpetuating like, the catching of shrimp down in the ocean.
Right,
like, I don't. Yeah. I'm not like I'm gonna boycott this, and I need to pick it out in front of my Kroger until they stop carrying, shrimp and tilapia and whatever. We do with certain things when we're like, oh crap, there's one rhino left. Shit. Maybe we should protect the rhinos. It's like, yeah, there's fucking one left. Like, like we do that with everything. Even pandas. I mean, how many pandas do we have left now? There's like 2, and we're like, oh, protect the pandas. It's like, why do we wait till they get down? Because we can't comprehend numbers that are bigger. Or it's like, oh, there's we're getting low on tigers. There's only 5,000 left on the planet. Well, 5,000 sounds like a lot,
Right. Yeah.
Not in the scheme of things. Like it's not a lot. But so our minds can't calculate these kind of numbers. And I think that's where if you take a person and you help break these numbers down to them and they do things on these personal basis, in my hope and opinion is that people are nicer and better. It's just that they sometimes lose sight of things because they're so grand that it's just it's too big for their mind to comprehend.
No, I agree. I think so. In closing, what do you aliens exist? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, you go with yes.
Yep.
I go with no.
Yeah.
And I go with no because if they do, we are a giant disappointment. And I really hope that we're alone in our sadness and disappointment in the world, in the universe, I mean.
No, if they do exist, then it just proves that everything you built your whole entire life around is now you have to start over from the beginning. You're like, I made it this long. Like, don't make me start over from scratch.
No, not really. I think that if aliens did exist and they were proven, it would prove some things wrong, but it would prove other things right. Like I said, I don't think aliens could exist in a world where evolution was the reason for our creation. So that would be good.
Yeah. Let's see.
But anyways, that was a fun little chat about aliens. I think it was more about humanity than it was about aliens, and I think that right there, that's the real, that was the topic was the real catch of the show. Anyways, no final thoughts other than I don't think they exist. You think they exist? We'd love to hear what you guys think. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're listening on iTunes,
if you have any comment. Proof, we would love to see some proof.
Yeah, proof of alien
tonight.
Please don't send us pictures of Luch. We know. We know. Anyways, hit us up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Find the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play. And Josh and I thank you for listening this week, and we will see you next week with the full cast and crew.
Later, taters.